Hey folks, we've had so much talk about Chinese guitars and whether we should be buying them and supporting that economy, and are we traitors of some sort for not buying expensive US made guitars, or Canadian, or British if you're there. So why not look at a real Chinese instrument? What I have here is a very cheap kit I bought just to check it out. It is a Chinese Erhu. It's a bowed string instrument. Comes in this box. I don't think this is a very good one, but it was so cheap that I thought to buy it just to check it out. Here you've got a little accessory pack, a little bag for it. Very, very cheap vinyl bag with some Chinese lettering on it. Some rosin. Let me pull it out and kind of demo it to you. So this is an ancient Chinese bowed string instrument. It's kind of like a very small kora, if you're familiar with the West African folk instrument, in that it has sort of a gourd-like sound box. Not as big as a kora, but the same idea. This one's made of wood. I imagine some of the earlier folky models of them being a gourd on the bottom, and it has some kind of sort of skin. This looks like fake snake skin on the top. It's painted to look like snake skin. I doubt that it is. It looks like mahogany, perhaps walnut, and it has almost like pipa pegs, which is another Chinese instrument. There's the top of it, 2 strings, and a bit like some of the ancient British folk instruments. I'm thinking of a bowed lyre or a Shetland goo or something like that. You play it sort of, you hold it like a big pipe and you play it bowed. And to get the distinction of notes, and maybe I need to sit down to demonstrate this. I'm probably making all kinds of sound on the lavalier mic. Let's get you down here a bit. To demonstrate this, how the sound works, it's sort of like a harmonic. Doesn't sound very good, does it? Now I can get away with plucking a tune out of this because I am a cello player. So I'm kind of holding it over my shoulder like a cello, resting it on my knee, and I have a cello or a violin bow grip here. I've seen people using more of a, this would be a German double bass bow grip right here, but I've seen people bow it like that when I watch YouTube videos of people playing the Erhu. I have a hard time playing both notes at once. I don't know whether this is because this is an extraordinarily cheap version of the instrument and the strings are terrible. I have better luck when I just play one string. And again, it's really hard to balance, so. Anyway, I'm applying my Western classical training to this, which is probably unfair because it has its own tradition and it is an ancient Chinese instrument. So I'm giving you a very poor representation of what this can do. I don't even know who made this. I can't recognize any of the writing on it. The characters are all Chinese characters. I'm not sure what type of Chinese or the exact region that this comes from. There seem to be conflicting accounts when I look it up online. All of the stuff it came with is written in Chinese, and the box itself doesn't really give any clues. The rosin that comes with it looks like violin, viola, cello rosin, very cheap. It's made in Austria, and it just says Zito on it, so it's an off-brand sort of rosin, but I imagine any violin / cello rosin will do the job. The bow is the worst thing about the instrument. The bow is incredibly poor quality. It's sort of like before Tort came and revolutionized the violin bow in the 1700s, a French violin bow maker. A lot of bows had this shape. I always get mixed up between concave and convex, but when the modern bow came out, they changed the contour so it curves like that and holds the bow hair much more taut. This one has the opposite shape of like a pre-tort bow, often made with snakewood, with sort of an ivooroid frog. Eventually those became ebony, because ebony is the most durable wood. And this one here is horsehair, but it's very poorly put together. It's looped around the frog with no sort of tightening mechanism, and then just taped to hold it in place. A lot of the strands are loose here, and then the end looks like it might have been broken and taped. And this is the way that it came to me. It works. But I'm probably better served if I just grab one of my cello bows and play this with it. The actual Erhu itself seems competent. I've tuned it in thirds. I'm not quite sure what the 2 strings tuning should be, and I'm not quite sure if this piece should remain here. It seems to act as a nut, so I left it there. And then when I tune it, this is the 0 pitch. So this seems to be some sort of floating nut. But that may be completely wrong. It may be that you tune it from the peg itself. The pegs aren't bad, and the wood on the instrument isn't bad either. It sounds like hell, I'll admit it. It sounds just as bad as some of the other folk instruments that I've gotten in the past that are very cheaply made. But that's probably because it is a cheap version. You can probably buy much better made instruments, and the strings are probably cheap, and I'm not disciplined in this art at all, even though I'm coming to it with some bowed string knowledge, so I'm probably going to fare better than some people. So it's a combination of lesser quality materials and just my lack of knowledge about the instrument. But I thought it was interesting, and I got this so cheaply that I thought it was worth just grabbing just for the sheer learning experience, and I'm glad I did. It's kind of fun. This may end up on one of my recordings. If you can see the wall behind me, you can see my array. Let me show you my array of folk instruments. There they are on the wall back there, and I use those for recordings. I have fun with them, and this is probably going to join those and become used in some experimental recording. I just thought I'd show it to you, probably because you may not have seen or be aware of an Erhu. That's A-E-H-R-U, or there aren't many videos about Erhus that you can get. I got this on Amazon. It just happened to be on sale. If you're interested, you can probably find one. And again, it's like playing harmonics. There's no frets, there's no fretboard. You just quite forcefully place your finger on the string to get, you guitarists, it's very similar to playing a harmonic. Instead of plucking, you bow. So anyway, there's a quick demonstration of this very cheap Erhu, a traditional Chinese folk instrument, which I believe was used in Chinese opera and other ancient Chinese ensembles, maybe the Kabuki theater and other cultural uses in China. I gather also it was part of a small traveling player ensemble, since it is portable, although I don't quite know how you play it while walking. Most of the videos I found where actual proper players are playing these, they tend to be squatting on the floor and either resting this on their knees or on the floor itself. So it seems to be a stationary instrument. I don't think it can be a part of a marching ensemble or anything like that, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could put a bass wheel on it and be the first traveling Erhu player. But anyway, I thought it was interesting. I thought you might like to see it. Some of you are more interested in these folky things than others, so obviously some of you probably moved on, but it's an interesting little instrument, hollow on the inside, and then with a skin on the top, much like a banjo or a banjo uke, which seems to be fake photo snake skin, and then a long pole with the strings, and then these sort of very pipa-esque style pegs, and then there's a butt on the end. I don't know if that's for hanging it or what have you, or it's just decorative. And then this plastic piece here seems to be what anchors the strings. I'm not sure how technical this particular one is. If it's just a cheap reproduction, obviously you wouldn't have this plastic piece on an ancient one, but it seems to work fine. I will work at it. I'll probably replace this bow and see if I can get a refined or interesting sound out of it. Alright folks, Chinese Erhu. Do I feel guilty about buying it and supporting the Chinese infrastructure? You tell me. See ya.